I hate gaming, and I bet you do too. Well, let me rephrase that. I hate where I've been at with gaming for years. Video games have been a significant part of my life for the better part of 3 decades. Despite this, my relationship with video games reached its ATL.
That's an all-time low. Not Atlanta.
I know that content containing shock and awe is attractive to people, but I'm not really looking to do that here. I'm looking to open up on an issue that, while largely unimportant to the rest of the world, is important to me. I've been an amateur FPS player since around 2017, and now, because of that, more than 7 years later, part of me hates gaming. For the people who know me that are watching this video, this statement probably comes as a bit of a shock. After all, I've been playing video games for as long as I can remember, and I've always voiced my love for gaming and the stories and experiences that accompany them. So why, after all this time, would I say something like this? The answer has taken me literal years to come up with. I mean, seriously, I started writing this script in 2022, and I just finished it in late January of 2025. I've made this video in the hopes that it might help provide you with some clarity on why your own feelings on this topic might be a little bit complicated. Going back to 2015 and 2016, I was a pretty casual gamer that enjoyed spending the bulk of my time playing games like Destiny, Middle-earth: Shadow of Mordor, Black Ops Zombies, and Skyrim. That is, until I heard about this new game that everyone was talking about. March of 2017, the new Heat hit the Steam store in early access for the cool price of $29.99. A new game unlike anything I'd ever experienced before. Some of you already know what it is that I'm referring to. That experience people referred to as PUBG. For me, this was a new breed of video game. 100 people all battling across a massive island to be the last man standing. It was full-on Hunger Games in the video game world, and the only way that I can describe my first time playing was that it was both terrifying and exhilarating, and I'm not speaking in hyperbole. The sensation of being in the final zones of the game, laying prone in a bathtub while an enemy fires at someone in the distance and inch away from discovering my barely concealed body, it was enough to get my heart racing. And when I finally won my first game ever and saw that winner winner chicken dinner banner pop up on my screen, my nerves shot to all hell. My dopaminergic response was unparalleled. The game had me hook, line, and sinker. And not long after that, I started to feel a desire to really do something that I'd never done before. Get good. Now, in the past, I definitely played other games that required some semblance of skill to play, namely Halo 3, Halo Reach, and Call of Duty World at War. The difference was, I primarily played those games with my friends. Many of our games were custom in nature, and I was honestly content to stay within the same skill range as the people I was playing with. PUBG changed that for me. I began to invest time into learning how to control the recoil on guns, getting to know how the zones dropped, and getting a feel for the best times and ways to rotate through the map. As I continued to play, my friends eventually went back to the games that they normally played, but not me. Sure, I still played with them, but not as often as I had before, and it didn't take too long before I'd sunk nearly 600 hours into PUBG. I can't say I got all that good, but I had a ton of fun pursuing it all the same. I went back and forth primarily between PUBG and Destiny, and I was, for the most part, totally okay with that. Then, the final step of my transformation began on February 4th, 2019. A new game had just been blind dropped by Respawn Entertainment. A new BR with a fresh feel, high intensity, and a push to take the genre to the next step in its evolution. Apex Legends. I instantly fell in love. It was crazy characters with different abilities across different classes, guns that felt crisp and didn't require an actual real-life sniper to operate. Looking at you, PUBG. A map that wasn't a million square miles, movement that was fluid, and a sniper that did 10 million damage, and a shield crack sound that was... oh my god! Absolute music to my ears. So yeah, I liked the game. Sure, I still jumped on other games from time to time, but in every measurable way, Apex became my go-to. If PUBG was my first Avengers movie, Apex was my endgame. I jumped in with a desire to get better in a way that I never had before. I was diving into patch notes, watching every morsel of content I could find on how to improve at the game, so much so that I became one of the degenerates who started using my scroll wheel to jump so that I could tap strafe. I was playing this game nearly to the exclusion of all else, and I did it for years. But as time went on, I began to notice something. It was a slow metamorphosis at first, a slight change that crept up and built on me over the course of several years. But eventually, I couldn't ignore it anymore. I was beginning to hate it, and not just Apex, but most of the time that I was spending gaming. But why? Why had I begun to loathe what had for years been my most sacred bastion of entertainment? I dedicated so much time into trying to improve and achieve greater heights of skill, and it was beginning to turn sour in my mouth. Eventually, I got to a point where more often than not, I would sit down in my chair to play games and just stare at the screen, endlessly scrolling through my Steam library with the occasional break for more TikTok and YouTube. I sat there and did absolutely nothing of value. I couldn't ignore it anymore. The joy that I derived from gaming was dying. It wasn't until recently that I realized that my demeanor towards gaming had morphed into an unrecognizable beast that I could never satiate. I had stopped playing games for fun. The answer felt so simple, and yet it astounded me. When you think about a game you remember fondly from a time when you were younger, what are the things that come to mind? I would guess that it involves things like couch co-op, unforgettable characters, a vast world that felt like a true escape into a universe of its own, and emotions that fill your mind with a warmth and weave a thread connecting you to the forgotten innocence of your childhood. I would guess that most of you are familiar with that set of memories and feelings. For me, my endless foray into Apex had become a never-ending chase to recapture that high that came from my first few wins and the joy that accompanied my experiences in gaming growing up. Halo made me a super soldier, Star Wars games gave me control of the Force, Skyrim was the high fantasy world that Lord of the Rings introduced me to. Every game I played when I was younger recontextualized what I could expect from life. They shaped my imagination, and I think that the reason we struggle to enjoy games in the same way that we used to is because we strive to grab hold of that same feeling that we had during those formative years, when everything was a new experience. For us, it becomes a never-ending chase to capture something that is always just beyond our reach. C.S. Lewis once wrote this: "All joy reminds. It is never a possession, always a desire for something longer ago or further away or still about to be." To me, this statement is a call for people to realize that the reason things will never be like they were during the good old days is because we aren't meant to always be chasing after a time in our life that was. As I've started to get a bit older, I've come to realize that the best thing I can do if I want to experience more joy in my life is to let go of that chase. To believe that I can capture joy in a bottle without simultaneously causing it to wither and die isn't much different than thinking that I'm capable of holding a wave on the sand. As we grow older, those new gaming experiences and the joyful moments that accompany them will become fewer and farther in between. It's a change that seemingly most people look at with dread, but I've come to look at it in a bit of a different way. As they become more and more scarce, my capacity to appreciate them will increase exponentially. My ability to contextualize the perspectives of the stories that are told will improve. A god learning how to be a father while coming to terms with the atrocities he committed in his past life. A man sacrificing the world to spare himself the pain of losing his daughter for a second time. A child moving past the trauma of losing his mentor and father figure. Every one of these gaming experiences created for me another moment to always be remembered. A stamp on my heart that will be hard-pressed to fade away. a joyful moment of discovery, of love, of peace, amidst the toil and struggle of what is often a very hard life. Joy is spontaneous, and learning to embrace it in the moment and let it go when it passes is, in my opinion, one of the best things that you can do in your journey to become more fulfilled in life. You'll spend less time focused on what was and look towards the potential of what could be. So, next time you catch yourself chasing after that ethereal feeling you had from playing games when you were younger by sinking hundreds or thousands of hours into a game you've been playing for years, consider letting it go. Take a break from gaming. Do the meme and actually go touch some grass. Feel the breeze flow over your face and arms as you inhale. Allow your mind the time that it needs to reflect on the experience that you've just had with the game, and then move boldly forward into the unknown experiences that are yet to come. Could I be wrong about all of this? Yes. Do I hope that I'm wrong? No. But won't it be a joy to find out either way? I hope some part of this video resonated with you guys, and if it did, please be sure to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends and family. This has been Caleb Anderson VO, and I'll see you in the next one.